So let's move on to the next question, and this is the rise of ransomware. So we're all aware of ransomware, and may or may not have affected you or a loved one, but it's coming, and it's coming in a big way. It's coming so big that the prediction models that I've seen are severely underestimating how big it is. It's attacking everybody, and what it is a malicious amount of computers, bots worldwide that are just targeting everybody. And it's not discriminating against one computer or another, it's going after everybody. So and one of the questions that we're going to be trying to answer is, what are they after? Students, we think, hey, students, what do they have, homework? I mean, what are we really doing here? Or do we need to worry about ransomware in education networks? And as we are trying to provide a service, either as a school, maybe even the infrastructure service of wireless for the physical locations, do we have a responsibility to help protect them against the rise of this thing, which is going to be very rampant shortly?
Yeah, great question. I think in my particular situation, we've not seen a lot of ransomware yet, but we fully expect it. I think that what I've heard from others is that, again, it's not being targeted at particular sectors at the moment. I explained earlier, I had heard Brian Krebs talk about an incident where a bank had a particular server that had fallen victim to ransomware. The bounty or the ransom they wanted was, I think, $500, and the bank would have been willing to pay, $500,000. So his point was that these people aren't targeting, that they don't know what they're encrypting yet, but that will surely change. I mean, obviously we've seen, I know in San Diego, I think 2 or 3 hospitals have been targeted, and that's an example where, encrypting that data, making it unavailable has immediate impact. And I think in every case that they've paid that ransom. I think the question about what do you do to protect your students, we don't have residence halls, so it's very different than some other universities, but obviously we have students are bringing in their own devices on our network. I think that's a question about, what's the responsibility of the organization for protecting a bring your own device kind of a situation on your network. I think you have to assume that there's a lot more beyond just their school information, their homework and that sort of thing that's on their device, and that the impact of a ransomware situation could be, their own credit card data, their own taxes, their own who knows what. So I know we've got a question later on, but what do we do in providing kind of endpoint protection for devices that we don't manage? Mm-hmm. Do you provide that as voluntary, or do you require it? I mean, some universities actually require kind of a baseline security for any device on their network. That's a challenge, especially in ours where we've got people coming and going. Many of our students who aren't ever on one of our locations.
Well, you're approaching 50,000. I mean, that's a lot of endpoints.
It is a lot of endpoints. The majority, and we'll talk about this, but the majority of the services that our students are accessing are not really on our network. They're on cloud. So it's Blackboard, it's Office 365, it's some other systems. But you're absolutely right. I mean, any of those systems is has potential impact. Yeah. I don't think it's a question that I have solved yet.
I think that's the big thing about ransomware is that it will affect anything that it can access. So this is a definite argument for network segmentation. So there's no reason that somebody who's bringing in their own device should be able to access even indirectly something that has HR information or any sorts of financial information, because that risk is opened up by having ransomware in your system and by having people who are kind of coming and going on unprotected devices. And backup is obviously, I think as anti-malware researchers, we didn't necessarily take ransomware as seriously in the beginning because it's like, okay, you just restore from backup, what's the big deal? But that is not happening either on people's personal devices necessarily, or even sometimes on big bang servers.
We're finding so a couple things. 2 weeks ago, I had a university have a ransomware attack, and it actually clicked in through one of their, and this is a really scary thing, it clicked in through one of their administrators, who then, it not only affected that, but it affected the backup administrator profile. So it attacked the backup that they had. So it encrypted the backup, which so they're getting more and more intelligent in the way that they do this. We're also finding in what I do in my firm with these 800 districts, or the school systems that we work with, is we're finding that these infections have been in there for a long time, usually. They've been in for a very long time, so we have to have the right scanning tools to be put in place to see what's moving. A lot of times, even with scanning technology we have that we can put in on the perimeter, we can see certain types of traffic at certain times and intervals that start to tell us that there's an infection going on. And with those tools then, we can start to put in, hey, we need to take a deeper look at this, because ransomware rarely hits you in the very next moment it hits. It comes in quietly, as do all attacks. You know, they're not, it's gone are the days of us seeing attacks where they come in and they're loud and proud and they go across the whole world as fast as they can. These are quiet. So interestingly enough, my engineer and I wrote a virus on a test network just the other day. So we, of course, go to the dark web and we get these tools, and they were freeware tools, and we buy all these things and we say, how do you want to put it out? We want to put it on a Facebook link, we want to embed it, and we want to take it to this, we want to randomize it to that. We created a zero-day attack. It was very easy to do. What methods are you going to do? Do you want to hire these bot machines to distribute for you? Do you want to bounce it off these other bot machines in order to push it to this Bitcoin thing somewhere in another country? I mean, the tools are there. I can create a ransomware attack and launch it tomorrow. And how good my attack is and what it does, or how stealthy it is, can even keep a lot of what I'd call the big AV companies from noticing that, because typical AV companies, unless they have the right technology in place to see things, will simply do a predefined signature. So someone has to have a blacklist, in essence, of a problem before they'll even do it. That could take days for them to do that. So by creating a zero-day attack that's customized for you or you or you, what I, in essence, do, I can make the code randomize itself every time. So I've got AV companies that can't really keep up with me unless they have a good sandbox mode. So that's an example of what I've seen recently, and even what we did last week, which was really quite scary. I didn't launch it, but it's amazing what can be done with these zero-day attacks.
Yeah, I think one of the themes that, I mean, around anything with information security today is the difference between protection or prevention versus mitigation. Like you said, I mean, you have to assume that your network is already compromised or infiltrated, that there are these sleeping bots or other software malware on devices. I think one of the things that is often overlooked is worm-like activity where, it infects one machine and it just keeps moving around your network. And especially if it's on, like you said, like with somebody who has some sort of administrative rights. So, I mean, there are tools for, randomizing service accounts and that sort of thing that I think a lot of people don't take advantage of. And that's a vector that these things make use of. So again, is stopping it from expanding, containing it. I think the other thing is, again, prioritizing. We've looked at client-side backups for basically critical people. It's fun to try to figure out who those critical people are and tell the other people they're not critical.
Until they get breached.
Until they get breached. But making sure that there are backups of those devices, and that's kind of our way of responding to that right now.
Yeah, backup really is the key, in essence, besides having proper defenses. Ransomware is here to stay, and email, web, backup, and some of the NAC solution stuff is really good too. If you guys haven't looked into that, definitely reach out. A good NAC, especially when you have wireless type of access, can help prevent that stuff from spreading. We've even seen some intelligent access points far beyond the traditional access points of Cisco and Aruba and people like that, where you can actually have a mini firewall on that power over Ethernet access point. and you can push down this sandbox mode technology all the way down to the access point. So the encrypted decision on whether something is infected or that type of traffic can happen all the way out at the access point. Very fantastic technologies that are coming up. Probably not highlighted much at this conference, but there's a lot of good things that are coming up right now.